Okay, so for lesson 5, you will solve word problems involving time intervals within 1 hour by adding and subtracting on the number line. So this is kind of like the lesson that we did right before this. We're still working within 1 hour, and we're going to be adding or subtracting. So on some of these, we might use the number line, but I think for the most part, we'll probably stick with the adding and subtracting on this. Okay, so the first one says, Carlos gets to class at 9:08 and he has to write down homework assignments and complete morning work before math begins at 9:30. So how many minutes does he have to complete his task before math begins? So we know the start time in this problem because it's 9:08, and we know what time he has to be done, which is 9:30. So we're just trying to find how many minutes are between 9:08 and 9:30. So we know from lesson 4 that that's just a simple addition and sorry, not addition, it's just a simple subtraction problem where you take 30 minutes and you subtract 8 minutes from that, and what you're left with is how many minutes he has to complete all that before math actually begins. So on your piece of paper, you're going to take 30 minus 8, and what you are left with will tell you how many minutes he has to complete all of these things before math actually begins. So go ahead and solve that on your piece of paper and check your answer. Push play when you're done to check your answer. So when you take 30 minus 8, you're left with 22. So that told me that he had 22 minutes to complete his task. Okay, so this next one says lunch starts at 12:05 and finishes at 12:40. So how long is lunch? So you're trying to find the time between the start time and the end time, which is kind of like what we just did. So we know to do a simple subtraction problem where you subtract 40 and you take 5 away from that. Hopefully that's simple math for you to do in your head, because it's kind of like counting by 5s. You're just counting backwards one time by 5. So when you take 40 minus 5, you're left with 35. So that tells us that lunch is 35 minutes. Okay, so this one says, Joyce spends 24 minutes finding everything she needs at the grocery store. It takes her 7 minutes to pay. How long does it take her to find her groceries and pay? So this one's kind of easy because it doesn't give us an actual time. We're just trying to find how many minutes it actually took her to do these things. So if it took her 24 minutes to grocery shop and then it took her 7 minutes to pay, all you're doing is trying to find how long was that all together. So on your piece of paper, solve that and then answer in a sentence to tell how long it actually took her to do that. And whenever you have that answer in your sentence, you can push play to check it. So you just simply had to take 24 and 7 and add that together, and that gave you 31. So that told us that it took Joyce 31 minutes to find her groceries and pay for her groceries. Okay, so this problem says, Gia, Carlos's classmate, gets to class at 9:11. It takes her 19 minutes to write homework assignments and complete morning work. How can we figure out if Gia will be ready to start at 9:30? So what we know is that she gets there at 9:11 and she has to be ready by 9:30. Also what we know that it's taking her 19 minutes to do her homework or write her homework assignments and complete the morning work. So we just have to figure out if she can get all of this done by 9:30. So we're not trying to find how many minutes is in between 9:11 and 9:30. We're trying to figure out if she starts at 9:11 and it takes her 19 minutes to do all this, will she be ready by 9:30? So we're really working with the start time in the 19 minutes. So if we take the 11 minutes and we add 19 to that, that's going to tell us the minutes that we would once again put with 9 o'clock to see if she would be ready by 9:30. So go ahead and add 11 and 19 on your paper to figure out what time she would actually get done writing her homework assignments and doing her morning work, and then that will tell us if she finished in enough time. So push play once you have that down on your paper. Okay, so whenever you take 11 and 19 and you put those two numbers together, you're left with 30. So we could have put that 30 minutes back with the 9 o'clock, and that told us that yes, Gia would be ready. She'd be ready like exactly at the right time. Okay, so this problem says Joey gets home at 3:25. So I'm going to underline 3:25 because that's our starting time. It takes him 7 minutes to unpack and 18 minutes to have a snack before starting his homework. So it says, what is the earliest time Joey can start his homework? So that's pretty much saying what time can he start his homework if he gets home at 3:25 and it's taking him 7 minutes and 18 minutes to do other things. So we're going to have to take the 25 minutes that's with 3 o'clock and we're going to have to add 18 and 7 to that. So on your piece of paper, if you take 25 plus 18 and then plus 7, that will give us the minutes that we can put back with the 3 o'clock to tell us what time can he actually start doing his homework. So I want you to go ahead and add those three numbers together. And once you have them added together, that will tell you, once again, what time to put with 3 o'clock and what time he can start his homework. So you will write the time next to your addition problem as well. So go ahead and push pause to solve this, write the time, and then push play to check your answer. Okay, so when you added 7 minutes and 18 minutes to 25 minutes, you were left with 50. So we just had to put that 50 minutes back with the 3 o'clock, and that told us that the earliest time he could have started his homework was right at 3:50. Okay, so this problem says Shane's family wants to start eating at 5:45 p.m. It takes him 15 minutes to set the table and 7 minutes to help put the food out. If Shane starts setting the table at 5:25 p.m., will his chores be finished by 5:45? Okay, so they just reset the 5:45 time, so we know that the end time, what they want to start eating, is going to be at 5:45, and we know that he's going to start doing everything at 5:25. We know it takes him 15 minutes and 7 minutes to do everything that he needs to do before dinner is ready. So this is kind of like what we did before, where we have to take those minutes and add them to the time that he actually started doing this. And then what we're left with will tell us if he actually will have enough time to get all that done before it's time to start eating. So if the start time was 5:25, we're going to be working with that 25 minutes, and we're going to have to add 15 minutes and 7 minutes to it, and that will tell us the minutes, once again, that we can put with the 5 o'clock, so because we're still working with 5 o'clock, to see if he's actually going to be ready by 5:45. So when you add your minutes together, you'll get a total amount of minutes that you're going to put with 5 o'clock. So I want you to add this down and write the time that you come up with to see if he's going to be ready by 5:45. So once you have that all on your paper, you can push play to check it. Okay, so whenever you take the 25 minutes, which was the starting time, and you added 15 and 7 to that, you're left with 47. So that was the time that we had to put with the 5 o'clock. So it would have been 5:47 whenever he was done doing all of his chores. So if he started the table at setting the table at 5:25, would he be finished by 5:45? And the answer to that question is no, because we figured out that he was actually going to be done at 5:47. So that is after 5:45. Okay, so the next problem says Tim gets on the bus at 8:32 a.m. and gets to school at 8:55 a.m. So how long is Tim's bus ride? So this one we did back in lesson 4. And you're just trying to find how many minutes is in between 8:32 and 8:55. So you know that if you just subtract 55 minutes and 32 minutes, that will tell you how many minutes is in between those two times. So go ahead and do your subtraction problem to find how many minutes his bus ride actually was. And once you have that completed, you can push play to check your answer. So when you take 55 and you subtract 32 from that, you're left with 23. So that tells us that his bus ride was 23 minutes. Okay, so this one says Davis has 3 problems for math homework. He starts at 4:08, so we know what time he's starting. And then it says the first problem takes him 5 minutes. The second one takes him 6 minutes. And then it says if he finishes at 4:23, how long does it take him to solve the last problem? So this is actually going to take a few different steps because we don't know how long the third problem lasted. That's what we're trying to figure out. But we do know how long the first problem and the second problem was. So we do have to know how long that was altogether for the first problem and the second problem. So when you add 5 and 6 together, that's just like adding 5 plus 5 and then just one more. And we know that 5 plus 5 is 10, and when you add one more to that, you get 11. So if he started at 4:08 and it took him 11 minutes to do the first two problems, then what time was he done doing the first two problems? Because that's what we need to figure out first before we move on to the next step. So this is like a two-step problem here. Well, actually, it's more than 2 steps, so it involves more steps than the ones that we've done previously. So if it took him 11 minutes to do the first two problems and he started at 4:08, then we're going to have to take that 11 minutes and add that to the 8 minutes to see what time he was done with the first two problems. So go ahead and add that together and write down the time that he finished the first two problems on your paper and push play when you're ready to check that. Okay, so whenever you add 11 and 8 together, you get 19. So that tells us that he was done with the first two problems at 4:19, and it says that he finishes his homework at 4:23. So here we are at 4:19, and we know that he finishes at 4:23. So the problem that we're trying to figure out is how long did it take him to solve the last problem? So we're at 4:19 and we're trying to get to 4:23. So we're trying to figure out how long was it from 4:19 to 4:23. So how many minutes did it take to get from 19 to 23? So really you can just count this in your head starting at 19 and go 20, 21, 22, 23. So that tells us that it took him 4 minutes to solve the last problem, because that's how long you get when you're counting from 19 to 23. So this had quite a few steps in it. You just have to figure out what your starting point is and where to go from there. Okay, so now we're ready for the problem set. So if you want to have that out and ready in front of you. Okay, so number 1 says, Cole read his book for 25 minutes yesterday and for 28 minutes today. So how many minutes did Cole read altogether? Model the problem on the number line and write an equation to solve. So I want you to notice that we're missing some 5s in here. They're just using the skip counting by tens. So we know that we need to start at 25, and we know we need to add 28 minutes to that. So underneath the number line, I want you to go ahead and write your simple addition sentence to see how many minutes it's taken him to actually read this all together. And then we're going to do it on the number line as well. So we know that 25 is going to be in between 20 and 30. So I want you to draw a point right here to show this is where he started. He read 25 minutes yesterday, so this is what he read yesterday. And then we're going to have to add 28 minutes for what he read today. So we know that we can skip count by 5s until we get closest to 28, and that will take us to 25, and then we'll just have to add 3 more so we can get to 28. So on your piece of paper, we're just going to start skip counting by 5s on each one of these tick marks. So we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So we stopped at 50, so we need to draw some tick marks just like we did back whenever we were working with the number line. 2, 3, 4. And we have to count to 28. So if we stopped at 25 on 50, then we have to count to 28. So we've got 26, 27, and 28 would take us right here on this third tick mark. So we would then see that this was 50, so this would be 51, 52, and 53. So that tells us that if we were to add 25 and 28 together, it would leave us with 53. So Cole read for 53 minutes. Okay, whoopsie, I went too far down. Number 2 says Tessa spends 34 minutes washing her dog. It takes her 12 minutes to shampoo and rinse, and the rest of the time to get the dog in the bathtub. How many minutes does Tessa spend getting her dog in the bathtub? It says draw a number line. We don't have to do that. We've been working a lot with just the equation, so we're just going to use an equation here. But we need to go back and reread to see all the steps that we're actually going to have to take. So let's underline some important information. We know she spends 34 minutes washing her dog, and we know it takes her 12 minutes to shampoo and rinse, but it took her the rest of the time to actually get her dog in the bathtub. So it says how many minutes does she spend getting her dog in the bathtub? So the total amount of time it took her to do everything was 34 minutes. And it took her 12 minutes to shampoo and rinse her dog. So all we have to do here to see how many minutes it took her to get her dog in the bathtub is to take that 12 minutes and subtract it from the 34 minutes, and what is left is going to be how many minutes it actually took her to get her dog in the bathtub. So on your paper, we're going to take 34 minus 12, and that will give us the answer, and then you will need to write your answer in a sentence to tell how many minutes it actually took her to get her dog in the bathtub. So go ahead and solve that and then write your sentence, and you can push play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, so 34 minutes minus 12 minutes would be 22. So that tells us that it took her 22 minutes to get her dog in the bathtub. Okay, so number 3 says Tessa walks her dog for 47 minutes and Jeremiah walks his dog for 30 minutes. How many more minutes does Tessa walk her dog than Jeremiah? So this one's really simple. We know Tessa takes 47 minutes and we know Jeremiah takes 30 minutes, and then these 3 words right here should be a clue where you know that you're going to be subtracting because it said how many more. So all we know is we're taking 47 minus 30, and that's going to tell us how many more minutes Tessa walks her dog than Jeremiah. So you're going to go ahead and solve that and then write your answer in a sentence and push play whenever you're ready to check it. Okay, so when you take 47 minutes and you subtract 37 minutes from that, you're left with 17. So your sentence should have said something along the lines of Tessa walks her dog for 17 more minutes. Okay, so number 4, this says part A, so I'm assuming that another part for this question is going to be on the back side of your problem set. So the first part says it takes Austin 14 minutes to take out the garbage, 12 minutes to wash the dishes, and 13 minutes to mop the kitchen floor. So how long does it take him to do all his chores? So this one's pretty simple. You just take everything that he did and how long it took him to do that and add all that together. So go ahead and add those all together to figure out how long it took him to do his chores. Answer that in a sentence and then push play when you're ready to check it, and we'll move on to the next part of this question. Okay, so when you take the 4 minutes and the 12 minutes and the 13 minutes and you add all that together, you get 29. So your sentence should have said something like it takes Austin 29 minutes to do his chores. So moving on to the back side, part B, it says Austin's bus arrives at 7:55 a.m. and he starts his chores at 7:30. So will he be done in time to meet his bus? So if he starts at 7:30, we're going to take those 30 minutes. And we know, I'm going to have to go back, we know that it took him 29 minutes to get all of his chores done. We're going to have to take that 30 and we are going to have to add 29 to it to see if he's going to be done by 7:55. So whenever we add these together, if it doesn't equal 55 and it's after 55, that tells us that he's not going to be ready by 7:55. So go ahead and solve this problem and answer by telling if he will be done in time or if he will not be done in time. So push play when you have that done so we can check it. Okay, so when you take those 30 minutes, because we started at 7:30, and you add the 29 minutes that it took him to do his chores, you are left with 59. So that tells us that he's done doing all of his chores at 7:59. But if you look back up at the problem, the bus arrives at 7:55. So you should have put he will not be done. It says it time, it should be in time. And then it says explain your reasoning. So we have to explain, and we're going to put because he would be done at 7:59 instead of 7:55. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to number 5. This says Gilberto's cat sleeps in the sun for 23 minutes. It wakes up at the time shown on the clock below. What time did the cat go to sleep? Okay, so this is what time it wakes up, and we're trying to figure out what time the cat actually went to sleep. So we're actually going to be counting backwards. And we know we're going to be counting backwards 23 minutes, but what we don't know so far is what time this clock is actually showing to tell us what time the cat actually woke up. So on your piece of paper, I want you to write down what time this clock is showing and then push play to check it and see if you're correct. Okay, so the clock is showing 11:36. So we know that the cat woke up at 11:36, and we know that the cat slept for 23 minutes. So we're just trying to figure out what time did the cat actually go to sleep. So once again, we're going to be looking at the minutes, and we're going to be subtracting those to see how much time was in between and what time this cat actually went to sleep. So over here to the side, we're going to take 36 minus 23. And that will leave us with the minutes that we need to put back with 11 o'clock to see what time the cat actually went to sleep. So go ahead and solve this subtraction problem and then answer this question in a sentence. And once you have that done, you can push play to check your answer. So when you subtract 36 and 23, you're left with 13. So that tells us that the cat went to sleep at 11:13. Okay, so exit ticket. You don't have to do the number line. If you want to do the addition or subtraction, whatever this is asking for, you can do that, and I'm fine. So you don't have to use the number line if you don't want to. And whenever you're done with this, you can bring it to me so we can check it.